After my husband passed away, he left behind nothing but a house filled with rotting troubles. His parents, my in-laws, needed daily medication just to stay alive. Our child was always crying for food. And then there was that towering mountain of debt. It was the kind of debt that could crush a person, a sum so high it's almost unimaginable. By the time my body and spirit were nearly broken, and I had almost finished paying off that endless debt, my husband suddenly reappeared, as if back from the dead. But he didn't return alone. He brought with him a little wife, what we call a mistress in our culture, a woman he'd kept hidden all this time. He looked at me and said, "I was only hiding from my creditors. Did you really hope I was dead? This time I owe another $1,000,000. You paid off my debt once. Surely you can do it again." I refused. That's when he made sure I had a life insurance policy, one that would pay out if something happened to me, a safety net for my supposed accidental death. And just like that, he arranged for me to die unexpectedly. But when I opened my eyes again, I had come back. Back to the day Hanbin, my husband, pretended to die. That morning, Hanbin was said to have died in a car accident. My child, our little one, was sobbing. My in-laws, both frail and nearly paralyzed, sat on the floor, wailing in grief. Their cries snapped me back to the present moment. I pinched my thigh hard, forcing the pain to bring me to tears. "Husband, oh husband, how could a good man like you leave us without a word?" But the truth is, I was only pretending to cry, because I had been given a second chance at life. I knew Hanbin wasn't really dead, and I even knew exactly where he was hiding. He had been crushed by enormous debts he couldn't pay, so he'd come up with a desperate plan, fake his own death, and leave all the chaos for me to handle. My husband wasn't dead. He was simply on a so-called business trip. I dropped the death certificate from my hands. The person who brought the news was a colleague from Hanbin's company. "Sister-in-law, please accept our condolences. The car was wrecked, and it exploded at the scene. There's no way to come back." I refused to believe it. "I'm calling the police. Someone must have tried to harm my husband. Hanbin is a good man. How could this have happened?" But before I could make the call, my mother-in-law, moving faster than I expected for someone so frail, snatched the phone from my hands. "We can't call the police." Even my father-in-law, who had just been sobbing, wiped away his tears and tried to soothe me. "Qian Qian, please, try to calm down." A chill ran through me. In that moment, I realized my in-laws must have known about Hanbin's plan all along. Thinking about it more, maybe they had even helped him pull it off. In my previous life, I had been so foolish. For the sake of Hanbin's reputation, I raised our daughter on my own, cared for his aging parents, worked myself to exhaustion, and struggled to pay off his debts. It took everything I had to finally clear those debts. The day I felt hope returning to my life, Hanbin came back. But he wasn't alone. He brought another woman with him. A little wife, that term we use in our culture to mean a mistress, someone who has been secretly cared for by a married man. Hanbin told me, "These past years it was Tui Tui who took care of me. We supported each other through hard times. If you can't accept her, then you're the one being unreasonable." When I refused to let her into our home, Hanbin glared at me, cold and accusing. I was only hiding from creditors. "Did you really want me dead?" Even my in-laws joined in. "Qian Qian, Bin is right. If it weren't for Tui Tui, he wouldn't have survived out there. Didn't you always hope he was alive? Tui Tui hasn't had it easy either. The three of you could have a good life together." They wanted me to accept the mistress, as if it were normal, just another part of the Han family's way. Tears filled my eyes. I asked, "If you weren't dead, why didn't you come home?" For a moment, guilt flickered across Hanbin's face, but he quickly found his excuse. "I believed you could take care of the family. Look at you. Without me, you still managed to pay off the debt and keep everyone together. This time I owe another $1,000,000. Help me again. If you did it once, you can do it again. Of course, I refused. But the very next day, I was killed in a car accident, a so-called accidental death, arranged by the very people I called family. After my soul drifted above the scene, detached from my own body, I finally realized the car accident that took my life wasn't fate at all. It was murder, planned by human hands. Han Bin, my husband, and Tui Tui, his mistress, the little wife he'd secretly kept, had taken out a huge life insurance policy on me. In our culture, life insurance is sometimes used as a cold calculation. If the insured dies, the payout goes to the beneficiary. They needed that payout to cover their debts. So, faking his death to escape creditors wasn't enough for Han Bin. No, he and Tui Tui needed me gone for real. To cash in. How laughable. Was I just supposed to become some autumn night's dream? Someone to be forgotten? Snap! In a fit of rage, I slapped my father-in-law across the face. How can you tell me to stay calm? My husband is dead. How could you possibly expect me to be calm? Father, wake up. Your own son is gone. My father-in-law just stood there, stunned, unable to react. Seizing the moment, I snatched my phone back from my mother-in-law. You're right, Father. I do want to calm down. And if this was a real accident, then we must call the police. Let them investigate thoroughly. But both of my in-laws blocked my way, united in their refusal. Why? I glared at them, cold and sharp. They exchanged anxious glances, sweat breaking out across their foreheads. It's gone this far, my father-in-law finally whispered. Let Bin rest in peace. I know you're heartbroken, but do you think we aren't suffering too? If you make a fuss, what will the neighbors say about us? We all need to save face. Our dignity matters. Dignity? The word was almost absurd. In our society, saving face is everything. It means protecting one's reputation, even at the expense of truth or justice. Yet here they were, clinging to pride, while ignoring what was right. I let out a cold laugh. My husband is dead, and you're still worried about what others will think. Deep down, I knew the truth. They didn't want the police involved. They were afraid the investigation would expose Han Bin's fake death. These were the in-laws to whom I'd once poured out all my devotion. From the day I fell in love with Han Bin, I'd done everything a good wife should, honoring his parents as my own, giving them gifts for every holiday, spending tens of thousands of yuan on things like gold bracelets and custom mattresses to help ease my father-in-law's back pain. I thought, I'm still young. I can suffer a little if it means the elders live comfortably. Even after Han Bin died, I willingly continued caring for them. My little one and I would eat cold buns and plain rice porridge while I stewed rich chicken soup just to nourish my in-laws' health. Looking back now, how utterly foolish I was. Even as they deceived me so cruelly, I believed their kindness was real. But in their eyes, I was never truly family, just an outsider. My mother-in-law tightened her grip on my wrist. Qian Qian, now that Bin is gone, you do whatever you want, is that it? Won't listen to us anymore. Fine. Our son just died, and now our daughter-in-law disrespects us. How are two old people supposed to live? She was the first to show her hand, revealing her true nature. In the past, I'd been too naive to see how sly, how ruthless they could be. Fine. If she wanted to humiliate me in front of others, I would make sure she could never hold her head up again. I rushed to the door, threw it open, and sat right at the entrance, wailing for all the world to hear. Oh, Buddha, why such injustice? My husband, such a good man, gone just like that, taken before his time. Who knows if it was really an accident, or something darker? I'm just a weak woman, with a baby barely 3 months old. What will become of us now? Does heaven see my suffering? Will justice ever be done for my poor husband? My cries, full of grief and desperation, quickly drew the attention of our neighbors. And as my sobs racked my body, everything faded to black, and I collapsed, fainting in the midst of my sorrow. I was the only daughter in my family. Now, both of my parents were retired. They should have been able to enjoy their old age in peace, surrounded by children and grandchildren, just as our traditions expect. But in my previous life, for my sake, they kept working, taking care of my child, and even handing over their meager pension just to help me get by. And then there were my in-laws, Hanbin's parents. One suffered from chronic kidney disease, the other had diabetes and high blood pressure. Bottles of medicine clung to my daily routine, and Hanbin's mountain of foreign debt squeezed me so tightly, sometimes I could barely breathe. After Hanbin's so-called death, in those 3 years, when my child was finally old enough for kindergarten, my own mother quietly advised me to leave. But I stubbornly held on, thinking about my marriage, about my sick in-laws. I gritted my teeth, refusing to let go, dragging my child and myself through endless hardship. At 30, I already looked 40, my hair streaked with grey, my face lined with exhaustion. Even now, I can remember the way Hanbin looked at me when I finally saw him again. First came shock, then disgust, and barely concealed impatience. "Why have you become like this?" he asked. He never considered, after losing my husband so suddenly, after years of clawing my way out of his debts, of course I had changed. But in the end, he just despised me. He said I wasn't worthy of him. I woke up in the hospital to darkness outside. As soon as I opened my eyes, my mother burst into tears. "Qian Qian, my poor child, you've suffered so much." I hugged her tightly, sobbing uncontrollably. In my previous life, as my own hair turned white with stress, so did my mother's. Though she never supported my decision to stay with Hanbin's family, she always helped me in everything I needed. I can't even imagine how much pain she and my father must have felt after I died. "Mother, we have to live well, for ourselves." She patted my back gently. "Silly girl, even if you died, life goes on. You still have your daughter, and you still have us. Your parents will always be here for you, your greatest support." That was it. I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. In my past life, I'd failed not just as a daughter, but as a mother too. I only ever tried to be a perfect wife, a perfect daughter-in-law in everyone else's eyes. But what did I get in return? Now that I've come back to life, I finally understand. You have to be a little selfish, think more for yourself, and stop sacrificing everything for other people's approval. My daughter had already been taken home by my parents. They would care for her, and I reassured them not to worry about me. From now on, I would face everything on my own. Hanbin was dead. I had fainted and ended up in the hospital. This time, I would leave all the funeral arrangements to his parents. In my previous life, I ran myself ragged to handle everything, only to be scorned by those two for not doing enough, for not hosting a grand enough memorial, for the ceremony not being impressive. How ridiculous. Why did a dead man need something so grand? Was he even worthy? When Uncle C and Aunt C arrived and saw me lying in the hospital bed, oxygen mask covering my face, they were completely stunned. "What happened to you?" The doctor, a longtime friend, stood beside me. Zhao Lin, always loyal, answered for me. The patient suffered acute respiratory alkalosis, brought on by overwhelming grief. She's still in a critical phase. I tried to sit up and speak, my voice hoarse. "Uncle, Aunt, thank you for coming to see me." But before I could finish, Zhao Lin pressed me gently back down. "Qian Qian, I've told you before, right now you're in a very fragile state. You can't get too emotional, or you might not make it through this." Silent tears streamed down my cheeks as I watched Uncle C and Aunt C. They were flustered, anxious. "Don't get upset, Qian Qian. Hanbin is gone, but you must hold on. Your child and your in-laws need you. Leave the family affairs to us. We'll help take care of Hanbin's funeral." I forced out a weak request. "Uncle, Aunt, could you burn incense for Hanbin at his grave in my place?" They nodded at once. "Of course. What matters most now is your health." Before leaving, Uncle C and Aunt C softly reminded me, "In the days ahead, your father-in-law and mother-in-law, Hanbin's parents, will still need to rely on you." I nodded, watching them go. Even outsiders could see the truth. Now that Han Bin was gone, I, the daughter-in-law, was expected to be the living support for his parents, like a walking blood bank. That's the bitter term for someone who is drained by their in-laws, giving everything and receiving nothing in return. The news of Han Bin's death had spread. Of course, my in-laws couldn't escape their responsibilities. Yet instead of coming themselves, they sent someone else to call me home to arrange the funeral. There's a saying here, if you start a play, you have to act it to the end. And so, I continued my role as the half-alive, broken-hearted widow. In Uncle C and Aunt C's eyes, I simply looked too devastated to move, so they didn't force me to return. It wouldn't have looked right, forcing a grieving woman from her sickbed. They just passed along the message. Once they left, I calmly wiped my tears and sat up in bed. Zhao Lin, my loyal friend, stared at me, astonished. Qian Qian, are you really so heartbroken you've lost your mind? I shook my head. No, I have so much left to do. There are things you'll understand in time. In my previous life, Zhao Lin had tried to warn me not to sacrifice myself for Han Bin, but I never listened. She'd even slipped money into my child's birthday cards, unable to stand seeing me struggle in poverty. Qian Qian, if you need help, just ask, she whispered now. By the time everything was finally settled, 2 days had passed. Then my mother-in-law called. Her voice, shaking with tears, reached me over the phone. Qian Qian, now that Bin is gone and you're sick, is our family about to fall apart? In my previous life, she used these words to keep me hesitant and trapped. She knew my heart would soften, that my love for Han Bin would keep me from leaving. So she always acted pitiful, always sounded like the helpless mother. They feared I might remarry and abandon them, so when it suited her, she'd call me daughter. But in reality, every day I came home from work, not once did I find a hot meal waiting. Yet she would always act as if she cared. Qian Qian, why didn't you tell me you were coming home? If you had, I would have cooked for you. And I, too, honest for my own good, never complained, never held it against her. I even felt sorry for her, thinking her illnesses were punishment enough. Looking back now, I realize how naive I was. If she could pretend, couldn't I do the same? So I raised my voice, crying even harder. Mother, without Han Bin, how will we live? My child is so young. How will she manage without her father? It's common here to compete in misery, hoping for more sympathy or at least some advantage. On the other end, my mother-in-law forgot her script, fell silent, then finally stammered. Enough, don't cry anymore. Bin is gone now. You need to be strong. She changed her tone again. Qian Qian, truly, since you married into our family, your father-in-law and I have treated you as a daughter. Now that Bin is gone, you're the pillar of this house, the one we rely on. Please recover quickly. We can't manage without you, not with our health so poor. Let your parents care for your child for now. They're retired anyway. In truth, this was her way of saying, don't bring the child, but you must come back healthy so you can work for us without complaint or pay. I kept up the act. Mother, I remember your words, but my heart aches. Han Bin is alone in the cold earth. I wonder if he's afraid. If only I could walk part of this lonely road with him. My mother cut in sharply. Don't talk like that. You must live, take care of your child, and watch over this family. That's your duty now. I spat in my heart. Mother, I understand. You and father must look after yourselves. I'll leave the hospital soon. Of course, being discharged was impossible. Now I had to play the role of the devoted, broken-hearted widow, bedridden, too grief-stricken to stand. That's the part I chose for myself. In my previous life, I was so blinded by sorrow that my in-laws forced me to organize Han Bin's funeral. They even demanded my bank card password, insisting it was for the funeral costs. How much they spent, I didn't care. I was too numb to count. By the time I realized, more than half my savings were already gone. Looking back, I remember how they once accused me of being stingy, just because I dared to check the funeral expenses. But thinking about it now, Something doesn't add up. No matter how extravagant a funeral is, it shouldn't have cost over 200,000 yuan. They must have secretly taken money out and sent it to Han Bin. This time, I wanted to see for myself how long Han Bin could survive with that money, especially since, by my calculations, his creditors would soon come knocking. On the day of the funeral, I wore black from head to toe, a black dress, a dark hat pulled low over my face, my whole body frail and pale as I was helped to the ceremony. My tears fell before anyone even spoke a word. My in-laws' faces were solemn, almost expressionless. There was no trace of grief in their eyes. Just as the black coffin was about to be lowered into the ground, a group of heavy-set men barged in, blocking the way. "If he's dead, does he think he can escape his debts?" one of them barked. "Who are you people?" my father-in-law tried to ask, finding his courage. "We're the creditors," one answered. "Han Bin owed us money. Don't think just because he's dead, we can't collect what's ours." My father-in-law's veins bulged with anger. "Yes, my son owed you, and we don't plan to deny it. But do you realize what day this is? Today is my son's burial. While he was alive, you could have harassed us as you pleased. But now that he's dead, can't you at least wait until tomorrow to demand your money?" The burliest man snorted. "Absolutely not. Every extra day means more interest added. Do you think I care about your family's tragedy? Old man, you're his father, right? There's an old saying here, a son pays his father's debts. But today, it's the other way around. The father pays for the son." Their sheer size and aggressive attitude sent a chill through the crowd. He pointed at the coffin. "I'm telling you now, if you don't pay up today, don't even think about burying him." My father-in-law clutched his chest and fainted on the spot. "Father!" my mother-in-law shrieked, but didn't forget to grab my hand, whispering desperately, "Qian Qian, drive them away." "Mother, why did Han Bin owe them so much?" She glared at me fiercely, her voice trembling. "What's the point of asking about that now? Didn't you hear them? If we don't pay, they won't let us bury Bin." In my previous life, they used moments like this to manipulate me, forcing me to hand over every cent I'd saved over the years. And that was just the beginning. The days that followed, all I could afford was gruel and vegetables. But no matter how much I paid, more debt collectors kept coming, like vultures circling. "Number not this time," I said firmly. "I trust Han Bin. He didn't owe any money. These people are scammers, frauds." At that, one of the burly men shoved me hard. "You're Han Bin's wife, aren't you? Calling us frauds? Fine. Let me show you exactly how much he owed." He threw a stack of IOUs at my feet. Here, I'll pause to explain. In our society, an IOU is a legally binding debt note, signed by hand, with a fingerprint and identification number to prove it's real. The original debt was 2 million yuan. With the sky-high interest rates of loan sharks, what we call shadow moneylenders, the amount had doubled. There it was, Han Bin's handwriting, his fingerprint, his ID number. This can't be," I whispered. The man raised his voice so all could hear. "Even if we go to court, the law will make you pay back every cent. This IOU is completely legal." My voice shook with anger. Our family isn't short on money. Why would my husband need to borrow so much? He never spent any of it on us. The burly creditor shrugged. "How would I know? He's your husband, not mine. If he didn't use the money for you, maybe he spent it all on some woman outside." My eyes flashed with anger as I turned to my mother-in-law, who immediately looked away, wiping fake tears from her face. All around us, relatives and friends watched, whispering, judging. The creditor fell silent, waiting. I looked at my mother-in-law. "Well, tell me." She bit her lip and finally snapped, "Enough. Family shame should never be aired in public. Qian Qian, what's done is done. Just pay off Bin's debt for him. Let's put this behind us." This was their way, always hiding the family's sins, sweeping dirt under the rug, pretending nothing was wrong as long as outsiders couldn't see. Her words stung. Not only had her son cheated, now she wanted me to clean up his mess, pay off his debt, and stay silent. But I wouldn't do it. No, Mother. You can't just close your eyes and hope the problem disappears. I won't pay for his mistakes. Han Bin is dead, I told them, but none of us ever saw a single cent of the money he borrowed. If I hand over all our savings now, what will we have left for the future? My mother-in-law, seeing my hesitation, grew angry. Didn't you hear what they just said? If you don't pay up, they won't let Bin be buried. Qian Qian, he struggled all his life for this family. Are you really going to just stand by and let him be humiliated, denied even a decent grave? I almost wanted to throw my head back and laugh. Struggled for this family? They still think I'm as naive and easy to manipulate as I was in my last life. Han Bin borrowed all that money to buy cars and a house for his first love, not for this family. When he couldn't pay, he faked his death, hoping I would shoulder the burden for him. Humiliation? Honestly, I'd prefer if he could crawl out of that grave and feel some shame himself. Mother, if I pay these debts, it's not for Han Bin's sake. It's to make sure he never finds peace, even in death. You and I both believe he was a good man. How could he have borrowed all that money just to support his mistress? Isn't this the biggest joke of all? The creditor, hearing my sarcasm, sneered. Han Bin must have been quite the man, huh? Keeping a mistress outside, yet still having someone loyal at home. Let me show you what it means to not cry until you see the coffin. That's a local saying. Some people won't believe reality until it's forced right in front of them, even if it's as clear as a coffin in a funeral. He tossed down a stack of photos, pictures of Han Bin with Chen Tui-ru, the woman he'd been supporting on the side. Pain shot through my heart. I couldn't deny it. In my previous life, I truly loved him. Han Bin was my first love. Tall, handsome, charming. His family background wasn't great, but that only made me love him more. We were the classic rich girl and poor boy couple. Even our home in Hong Kong, 2/3 of the payment came from my parents. After the wedding, Han Bin quietly moved his aging parents into our home, and I cared for them as if they were my own. And yet, all along, he'd been supporting another woman outside. This was the truth. The creditor slammed down the proof, right in front of me. My chest tightened. I collapsed in a faint, just as I'd intended. To hell with this. I'm not paying a cent for him. Let them all sort it out without me. No sooner had I landed in the hospital than my in-laws came begging my parents for help. But by then, my parents had learned the whole truth. Han Bin had borrowed all that money to keep his mistress. Without another word, they took my child and left for Sanya, far from this mess. The creditor just stayed at our house, camping out, waiting to get paid. Word spread. Han Bin's coffin had been left outside for 3 days and nights, still no burial. My in-laws tried to send relatives from the Han side to find me, but Zhao Lin, my loyal friend, blocked the door. The patient is still in intensive care. She can't handle any more stress. If you want to talk family business, wait until she's fully recovered. And honestly, who would want to bear the reputation of driving a widow to her death? Our family's affairs had turned into a muddy mess. Anyone who got involved was bound to come out stained. A week later, I still could barely sit up. My in-laws arrived at the hospital, out of breath from crying. By then, the creditors had taken everything they could get their hands on. Anything in the house that could be pawned was already gone. You could tell, just by the look in my in-laws' eyes, that they'd left nothing untouched. My mother-in-law glanced at my father-in-law, and suddenly, thud, thud. Both of them dropped to their knees at my bedside. "Qian Qian," she pleaded, "we know Bin wasn't worthy of you. If he were alive, I'd beat him myself to vent your anger. But now he's gone. Can't you show some mercy for the child's sake? If you mortgage the house and pay them, maybe, just maybe, we can all keep going." This is a classic scene in our culture. When all else fails, the elders kneel and beg, using the child's future as leverage, hoping guilt will win where logic and reason have failed. But this time, I just stared back. Cold, unmoved. After everything, they still expected me to sacrifice everything for the so-called family. Not anymore. In my previous life, I didn't hesitate. I mortgaged our home immediately, all to help Han Bin clear his debts while he was still alive, so he could die with a clean name. Afterwards, I rented a tiny apartment, just 2 bedrooms and a cramped living room. My in-laws hated it, complaining it was too small, too dark, not even an elevator. When rain poured down and I was late getting home from work, they grumbled that they'd gone hungry waiting for me. I'd quit a secure job as a government clerk to hawk snacks at a night market, working until sunrise just to keep us afloat. But no matter how hard I tried, I never managed to make that little place feel like my own home, never saw a light that truly belonged to me. My tears now weren't for my mother-in-law, but for my past self. Crying over all the unworthy sacrifices I made, all the pain I carried for nothing. Of course, I agreed to mortgage the house. For the family. But look at me now. I can barely get out of bed. Mother, can you wait a few more days? I asked, feigning weakness. Wait, the interest is already killing your father, my father-in-law snapped, anxious about the mounting debt. My mother-in-law jabbed him with her elbow, putting on a concerned face. Of course we can wait. Qian Qian, please take good care of yourself. We worry about you every day. It's just, we're old now. We can't help you as much as we'd like. And then she started to cry, right on cue. When she played her part so well, what choice did I have? I simply kept up my act, lying silently in the hospital bed. The next day, the creditors stormed in again. Several burly men crowding into my tiny hospital room, making it impossible for me to escape. This is how debt collection often looks here. They'll show up in force, blocking your door, not letting you forget what you owe. Zhao Lin, my friend, hissed in my ear. Your in-laws are nothing but trouble. They tell you to mortgage your house, then the next minute, they're turning you in to the creditors. I've lived 2 lifetimes now. Only this time do I truly see their rotten nature. In my previous life, I worked myself to the bone for them. This time, I'd teach them how to be decent human beings. Qian Qian, answer me, the creditor demanded. When will you pay off your husband's debt? Your in-laws say you're the one who has to pay. Even those words, they dared to speak out loud. It seemed that if I didn't pay today, I'd be thrown out of the hospital. Big brother, I understand you're just trying to do your job. I want to pay you, I really do. I struggled up from the bed, forcing myself to kneel before them. Please, I beg you for just one thing. If you do this for me, I'll pay you every penny. He laughed, loud and crude. Lady, do you even know what you're saying? I gritted my teeth and pressed on. Big brother, honestly, I refuse to believe my husband is dead until I see the body. If you want your money, help me find proof he's really gone. If you can show me Han Bin, alive or dead, I'll pay everything you're owed. He hesitated, and I continued. If he's alive, why hasn't he come home? Even if he owed the world, I'd pay his debts for him. If only I could see him. Unless I see with my own eyes that he's left me for another woman, I won't believe it. The lead creditor rubbed his chin, considering my words. Ha! Your loyalty to Han Bin is something else. The loyalty of a wife who still clings to hope, even when the world insists her husband's dead. In our culture, people like me are sometimes called foolish, sometimes called strong. If Han Bin was still alive, he sneered, he wouldn't be coming back here. But all right, I'll give you a month, just 1 month. Find him, or pay up. I'm not helping you find that bastard Han Bin, the creditor snapped. If you want to find him, do it yourself. In 1 month, I'll be back for my money. Got it? I nodded furiously, grateful for even this sliver of time. Thank you, big brother. Thank you so much. As they left, I overheard their muttering in the hallway. Brother Bu, you're really giving her a whole month? I'm not in a hurry. Frankly, I'm curious to see what she'll actually do. Besides, whether Han Bin is dead or just pretending, it's not my business. As long as we keep an eye on her, we'll get our money. Brother Bu always thinks ahead. In the underworld here, a leader like Bu is seen as both ruthless and righteous. He keeps his word, but never reveals deals made in private. They assumed I'd already mortgaged the house, so they started moving their things in, planning to live with me, as if I'd become their last resort. My parents, on the other hand, were local people, with their own house, savings, and only one daughter, me. There was no one more perfect to be milked dry than a daughter-in-law with nowhere else to go. Soon my in-laws arrived at the hospital with all their worldly possessions in tow, clearly planning to stay for good. Moving in, are you? How nice for you, I thought bitterly. On the first day, I let them eat well and drink well. No reason not to. But when midnight came, I started sobbing in a low voice. Husband. Oh, my husband. My mother-in-law, startled, jumped off her folding bed. Bin. Is that you? Have you come back? I stared straight at her and asked, Mother, do you think Han Bin is really dead? She choked, frozen in place. Mother, I have a feeling Han Bin never died. He's just hiding, isn't he? Her face turned grey, her lips trembling. Qian Qian, you're confused. Bin is really gone. He's really gone. I wiped my tears, making a scene. Mother, stop lying. Han Bin's not dead. He's not. I don't believe it. All night long, I kept raving, sometimes claiming aliens had taken him, sometimes insisting he'd run off abroad. By dawn, my in-laws were so shaken, their eyes drooped with exhaustion. But the more frantic I seemed, the sharper my mind grew. I spread rumors everywhere. My husband wasn't dead. It wasn't long before the gossip spread. She's lost her mind from grief. With my reputation as a madwoman, my in-laws couldn't use me as their golden goose anymore. Shaolin gave me a thumbs up. You're brilliant, Qian Qian. I shrugged, feigning helplessness. When dealing with scoundrels, sometimes you have to be even more shameless. Morality, kindness, those are for people who deserve them, not these leeches. Shaolin grinned. So what's your next move? I smiled. Just sit back and enjoy the show. The show? Of course, the downfall of Han Bin. Without parents to support him, he won't last long. And if even his wife won't bail him out, who'll pay for his next hospital bill? Here, hospital bills and money for life-saving treatment are constant threats families use to guilt-trip their daughters-in-law into sacrificing everything. 3 days later, the private detective I hired sent me a message. My father-in-law had snuck off to Hay City, the very place where Han Bin's first love lived. No surprise. Han Bin and Chen Tui-Ru had been hiding there all along. While I slaved away, selling everything I owned, he'd been living comfortably, free from consequences. It was time he paid for the humiliation and misery of my last life. I tipped off Bu's men. The news reached Han Bin in no time. When Bu arrived, Han Bin was leisurely enjoying hot pot and drinks in a bustling restaurant. My detective streamed a live video to me. As soon as Han Bin saw Bu, his face went pale with shock. Brother Bu. Bu's boots sent the table flying, scalding hot broth, splashing all over Han Bin. Han Bin screamed in pain, trying to scramble away. Unfortunately for Han Bin, several of Brother Bu's henchmen had already blocked the only exit. He spun around and dropped to his knees. Brother Bu, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Smack. A fierce slap across his face, blood streaming from his nose. Brother Bu bared his teeth in a wolfish grin. Sorry? You've got some nerve, Han Bin. No one's ever dared to trick me before. You're the first, and you'll be the last. Han Bin's face turned ashen, his body trembling with fear. Brother Bu, please, I know I was wrong. My wife will pay you. She has money. She'll do it. But Brother Bu didn't want to hear his excuses. With a kick to Han Bin's chest, he spat. Are you even a man? Borrowing money to keep a mistress, then letting your wife pay the price for you? Han Bin, what kind of man are you? Han Bin gasped. I didn't have any choice. My wife has money. Why can't she pay for me? Brother Bu spat at his feet. Your wife is half crazy with grief over you. I only want my money, from you, not her. Please, Brother Bu, just give me a few more days. Please. Brother Bu sneered. How many chances do you think you deserve? You keep begging, and you still have the nerve to ask for more. He signaled to his men, who immediately started smashing the house, breaking furniture, throwing things to the floor. Oh, so you had enough to buy a place, huh? Even wedding photos, gold jewelry, bought with my money. Brother Bu, please, I'll never do it again, I swear. Do I look stupid to you? You think I'd trust a liar like you twice? Hanbin could only kneel, battered and defeated. My father-in-law, having travelled all the way just to see his son, arrived only to find him bloody and bruised. This is illegal. You can't do this. Brother Bu just laughed, louder than anyone. Go ahead, call the police. Report me. Huh. You won't dare. Besides, in this world, if you borrow money, you have to pay it back. That's just how it is. When Qian Qian, the infamous little wife, Hanbin's longtime mistress, returned home and saw the chaos, even she was stunned. With the house trashed, both Hanbin and his father beaten, and a pack of angry men still inside, even a fool could see what had happened. Hanbin looked at her as if she were his last hope, crawling toward her. Tui Ru, how much money do we have left? Please, transfer it to Brother Bu. Reluctantly, Qian Qian used her bank card to send as much as she could to Brother Bu. Hanbin sighed in relief, until Bu sneered. You've only paid half. What about the rest, Hanbin? Gonna sell the house, or pawn a leg? Qian Qian clung to Hanbin, pleading. The rest, his wife will pay. They have another house, a car. Surely they can scrape together more than we can. Huh. You two really are cut from the same cloth, Brother Bu spat. In our culture, this is the classic blame the daughter-in-law move. Even the mistress assumes the legitimate wife is an endless source of money and patience. I ended the video call, laughing out loud. Real estate? Car? I sold all of that a long time ago, so when Brother Bu brought Hanbin to face me, my heart felt nothing. Only satisfaction. Wife! Hanbin wailed, crawling toward me. Wife, please save me. Brother Bu will kill me. Kill you? That would actually make things easier for everyone. I feigned surprise and approached, deliberately pressing on his swollen, battered face. Hanbin howled in pain. Hurts, doesn't it? I smiled. Let's see if it can hurt even more. Without hesitation, I slapped him, hard. He leaped up, shrieking. What are you doing? I'm your husband, Hanbin. He nodded frantically. Yes, I'm Hanbin, your husband, Qian Qian. Look, I'm even wearing the clothes you bought me. Disgusting, I spat, literally, right onto his face. You're not my husband. My husband is dead. Here, the pain of old and new betrayal, rage at his cowardice and selfishness, all came boiling out. I grabbed my IV pole and started swinging at him. How dare you pretend to be my husband? You'll never die a decent death. You lying, shameless coward. Hanbin scurried away in terror. Brother Bu sat back, eating an apple and enjoying the show. Only when blood was running down Hanbin's forehead did Bu finally wave for his men to step in. Qian Qian, this really is your husband, he said, still grinning. For a moment, I just stood there in shock, then burst into loud theatrical sobs, like some kind of banshee. But why not? I had a psychiatric diagnosis in my hand now. Might as well use it to its fullest. While Brother Bu's men helped Hanbin up, I lunged and slapped him again, not holding back at all. As my friend, Dr. Zhaolin, would say, the patient is so overwhelmed by heartbreak that her mental state is unstable. Any crazy behavior is perfectly understandable. Her family should support her, not judge her. In other words, in our culture, once you've been labeled mentally ill by a professional, no one can blame you for acting as wildly as you like. Your family is expected to be patient, to show understanding. Hanbin, worried, pulled a doctor aside. What if she doesn't recognize me as her husband anymore? The doctor just nodded. Then do your duty as a husband. Try to awaken her memories with love. Maybe she'll remember you if you care for her enough. This is the classic advice. Love and patience will cure a woman's mental suffering. Whether it's true or not, it buys me time. Honestly, as long as Han Bin and Chen Ru suffered, I felt wonderful. Now Han Bin, battered and bruised, had nowhere left to rest, not even the dignity to lie down. Brother Bu kept turning up the pressure. If they didn't pay soon, he'd start breaking bones. Han Bin's only hope was me, so he stuck close, serving me with the devotion of a loyal dog. Even at 3 a.m, if I wanted handmade wontons, he'd rush out to buy ingredients and make them himself. One night, as he finished mixing the filling, his phone rang. He shot me a guilty look. I just stared at the bowl of filling, pretending not to notice. Only then did he dare answer, his voice a harsh whisper. "Not yet. A few more days. I'll be back soon. Can't you just be understanding for once? Now's not the time. I have to calm her down. Just wait." Judging by his tone, Chen Ru, his mistress, was furious. And no wonder, any pregnant woman would want her husband around, especially now. But Han Bin couldn't even let her see his face. As for me, I was the official wife, supposedly out of my mind. Han Bin was happy to be ordered around like a pet. No wonder Chen Ru was losing her patience. Soon, she couldn't hold back her jealousy and stormed into my hospital room, only to find Han Bin carefully cooking porridge for me. "Who is she?" she demanded. Han Bin's expression changed instantly. "She's my cousin," he blurted out before I could speak. "Hello, cousin." I smiled sweetly at Chen Ru, reaching out to shake her hand. Her lips pressed tight, her eyes brimming with resentment. "Hello," she forced out, barely concealing her anger. Seeing her so upset made me feel all the better. In my past life, I'd met her too. My in-laws told me she was some distant relative of the Han family, just here to visit for a few days. She was pregnant then, and out of pity, I made sure she had fresh fruit and meat every day. She enjoyed it all, even used my money to pay for her delivery, and I took care of her through her whole recovery. My poor daughter got sick and ended up with pneumonia. Chen Ru scorned her. "Keep that child away from my son. What if she infects him?" It was the dead of winter. I was forced to take my little girl and leave the house. After months of struggle, I finally cured my daughter's illness and paid off every debt, only for Han Bin to return home, clutching Chen Ru and their child, his real family, while I played the clueless fool in their family drama. How could I not hate them? Now, watching Han Bin tend to my every need, while Chen Ru looked ready to chew glass out of jealousy, I enjoyed every moment. I decided to push things further, using my madwoman act. "Cousin," I smiled at her, "you're not getting any younger. If you wait 2 more years, you'll be too old to find a husband. But don't worry, I've lined up plenty of blind dates for you. Take your pick." "Who asked you to find dates for me?" Chen Ru yelled, her voice trembling with rage. I jumped behind Han Bin, clutching his arm for show. "Honey, I was just trying to help. Why is your cousin so upset with me?" Han Bin patted my hand. "Don't worry, darling. I'll talk to her. Don't be afraid." Han Bin pulled Chen Ru aside, speaking in a low voice. "You know she's sick. Can't you just go along with her? What's the big deal if she wants to set you up on a date? So what if it's a marriage prospect? Why are you making such a scene? If Qian Qian says you're getting married tomorrow, will you actually go through with it?" He glanced at her belly, lowering his voice even further. "Of course I care. But this is a critical time. Don't forget why we're here. If we don't keep her happy, how are we supposed to survive?" In this family drama, the mistress is always expected to endure for the sake of appearances, just as the official wife was once expected to swallow every injustice. Now, the tables had turned. Tears welled up in Chen Ru's eyes, but she had nothing left to say. She clung to Han Bin like a parasite. There was no way she'd dare leave. Sure enough, 2 minutes later, Han Bin returned with her, both looking sheepish. "Wife, I've spoken to my cousin. She's agreed to meet your matchmaking candidates, and she's sorry for how she acted before. She'd like to apologize. Chen Qian stared at Han Bin for a long moment, then bowed her head to me. I'm really sorry, cousin. I was too loud earlier. I scared you. I apologize. I waved my hand magnanimously. No problem at all. We're family, right? Of course I'm not angry. But the real anger was brewing under the surface, and I knew exactly who would explode next. Sure enough, the next day, Chen Qian stormed into my room. Qian Qian, you're doing this on purpose, aren't you? Doing what? You wanted a husband, I found you some. A widow, a divorcee, and even a man old enough to be my father. Variety is the spice of life. I've put up with you long enough, she shouted. Do you think I can't see you're deliberately setting me up with losers? I just laughed. Did it really take you this long to figure it out? You really are clueless. She lunged to slap me, but before her hand could land, Han Bin caught her wrist. What are you doing, darling? I whined, stepping theatrically behind Han Bin. She's trying to hit me. Han Bin's face darkened. So you finally showed your true colors. Trying to hit my wife, are you? Here, I couldn't help but admire my own acting. I could outdo a Bollywood star. Han Bin, surprisingly, slapped Chen Qian right across the face. Shut up! How dare you cause trouble for my wife? Don't you dare speak nonsense again. Chen Qian stared at him in disbelief. You hit me. Han Bin, are you even human? But Han Bin had stopped being human a long time ago. He was nothing but trash to me now. I wasn't surprised at all to see them fighting. I calmly peeled an orange and watched, treating it like a free show. Back and forth they went, a slap from her, a punch from him. Eventually, he shoved her to the ground. That's when I picked up the phone and called the police. Time to end this farce. Besides, I was tired. When the police arrived, Han Bin never suspected it was me who'd called them. As they hauled him away, he called out, Qian Qian, please bail me out, okay? I'll be waiting for you, honey. He tried telling the police he was my husband, but I'd already sold the family registry with his name on it. In our system, the household registry is the legal document that proves your family ties. Without it, he was nothing to me. After all, we'd even held a funeral for him. How could I possibly admit he was still my husband? My in-laws tried to find me, but I refused to answer the door. Not long after, new owners moved into the house I'd sold. When my in-laws caused a scene at the door, the new homeowners had to call the police themselves. Only the police managed to track me down. I heard Han Bin and his parents even took DNA tests to prove he was really Han Bin. How ridiculous. He could pretend to be Han Bin one day, fake his death the next. Did he really think he could just do whatever he wanted? The moment he admitted he was Han Bin, his punishment began. No longer could he hide from his debts. Brother Bu wasn't the only one pressing charges. I was ready to sue him myself. As the greatest victim in this marriage, I had finally gathered enough evidence of Han Bin living with Chen Qian to take him to court for adultery. Of course, the result was jail time. There's no running from the law. Not even all his connections could save him. In many Asian legal systems, clear proof of a spouse living with a lover can serve as solid grounds for criminal prosecution or a heavy civil penalty. Here, justice was finally on my side. Nearly every day, I received letters from prison, each one filled with confessions, apologies, words of regret, classic empty promises. That's how many men are. Sweet words, but only when they've lost everything. He admitted he was wrong, but really, all he wanted was for me to save him. 3 months after he was locked up, I agreed to visit him once. I never expected how much he'd changed in such a short time. Skin and bones, his hair now completely grey. He looked just like I did in my previous life. Hollowed out, exhausted, years stolen away. The moment he saw me, he became emotional. Qian Qian, Qian Qian, you know I love you, right? I just smiled. I didn't deny it. Yes, Han Bin, maybe you did, but that was a long time ago. Qian Qian, please believe me. As soon as I get out, I'll be good to you. I'll be a good father to our daughter. We can be a family again, can't we? No, Hanbin, not this time. I never want to see you again. I don't want any connection to you at all. The house? My parents bought it. The car? They bought that too. I already sold everything. None of it ever counted as marital property. After all, you were already dead when it mattered. He sat in shock for a long moment. Then, realizing the truth, he finally shouted, "Qian Qian, all of this. You did all this, didn't you?" No, I brought this on myself. When I stepped out of the prison gates, sunlight washed over me. Warm, gentle. It had been so long since I'd felt sunlight this beautiful. For the first time, I felt truly free. Hanbin's parents, unable to accept the reality of his imprisonment and with no money left for medical care, soon passed away, one after the other. In our culture, this is a common fate for those who lose both face and financial support. Old age comes swiftly when hope disappears. And me, I enrolled in a university overseas, took my daughter, and set out for a new life. No longer worried about where the path would lead. I only looked ahead, never back.